Hello everybody and welcome back to cloudguru.us. So in this video, it's actually the intro video to 5 preceding videos, which we're going to be going over the architectural data model. We're going to be starting off with this intro video, but after this we're going to be diving into Starbucks, Agile methodology, which I've built in Salesforce, the recruiting app from the Salesforce.com fundamentals book, which is a good starting point, Amazon data model, and then at the last we're going to be tackling the auction house, which is for Wells Fargo or for any bank, and how it's three-tiered architecture and how the triggers and everything kind of lines up. So 2 of these are actually real. You can go to the recruiting app in the Salesforce fundamentals book, and the Agile methodology I use on a daily basis. I've built this in the org. And as you all know, I like to dive into the org, and we're going to be doing that in the next videos. But for this one, just a few screenshots here. So let's begin. Now, before we can dive into any data model or architectural diagram, we need to first understand how to read these models and diagrams. So to start, let's review UML. UML stands for Universal Modeling Language. This is a formal way to describe states, relationships, events, things like that, and have other people be able to understand what you're saying. So let's keep in mind going forward that UML is a language. Without this, you'd go into a meeting, or a consultant would go into a meeting, and they'd draw a big circle on a board and draw an arrow to another circle, put words in it, and say something like, this needs to talk to this, or that needs to talk to this over there. So while this is a good start, it is a bit vague and too vague to be able to work from. So what we need to define are things like, what does it do? How does it talk? What data goes across? What states are involved? So UML is a language to describe complex systems. Really, the whole idea is to transmit an idea from one person to another, literally, and to think about things in a rational way that are mutually understandable, so teams and individuals can model complex entities. So you're saying to someone, here's what the customer is doing. They need these elements, these data elements, these processes, these states, these flowcharts, and UML is a great way to describe those things in a standard way. So for simplicity's sake, think of the company as a box, and on each side there's a different tool that you can use to capture what the customer is telling you, to put them down in a way that someone else can actually do the work. So a good time to bring this up is state diagrams. They're used to give an abstract description of a behavior of a system. So this behavior is analyzed and represented in a series of events that could occur in one or more possible states. It sounds a little complicated, so to make it really easy, it's just a good example is just, are the lights on or off in a car? That's what it's concerned with. It doesn't talk about all the relays and the complex things that need to happen behind the scenes to make that light go on in the car, but focuses on the states that the car is in, or that the business is in. And why I bring up the state diagram is a single state may actually have a flow chart, a swim lane, a use case, and some associated requirements to this particular state. So it's really the objective of these techniques are for people to be able to communicate in a standard way. Now, a great example, or a good example, is when a business analyst goes to a customer site. What comes out of this meeting? Well, when the BA absorbs something, they produce some kind of document. It may look something like a requirements and solutions document, which looks something like this. It's probably, I've been working with Google Docs, but what you do is you load this up, and multiple people can work on this with the customer. So multiple people are adding discovery notes, or you'll usually take notes on a Google Doc, and you'll transfer those to requirements. And then that gets the sign up from the customer. But you start off with a workbook legend, the definitions, language used, what it means. Requirements are gathered, and you can segment these, and goes all the way down the line to a solutions detail. And then you've got your use cases, which are really mapped back to the requirements doc and specific requirements. So that's just one of those areas of the box. It's one of the ways that you can start to gather that information from a customer and understand it in a team perspective. Another way is the swim lanes. Swim lanes look, well, actually it's a pretty good, I can't fit it all in there right here, but this is a pretty good look at a swim lane. So swim lanes are called swim lanes because that's what they look like. They're swim lanes. You'll get this is marketing, customer sales. This is more of a marketing type, a campaign marketing type of or management type of swim lane. But they have them for everything. And this is another way to understand what the customer is telling you and how to work it as a team. So the idea is that the BA will produce something like this. And it might be any one of these type of documentations, use cases, requirements, or swim lanes or flow charts. And then they'll pass it on to a technical architect, for example. And the TA will look at this and go, well, I understand this. I understand what this is and what needs to be built. I understand what the level of effort for this is going to need to be, and they'll produce their own documentation that in turn will go back to the BA, and the BA will be able to understand and review this with the customer. So with standard diagramming methods, they should be able to say, these are the data items, and here is how they relate to one another, and here is how they are manipulated by the states of the customer system. So that really, the more standard the system of approach, the easier it is to communicate and build a solution for the customer. Now, I just have to mention agile methodology. It's very tough to find a completely agile project, but smaller projects tend to be waterfall for time and materials, and larger projects you can do with agile because there's more time to devote to that and more time to get the customers involved. But because it's an iterative process, I think that it's very rare to get it right the first time, which is why I think agile is a great thing to do and why these documents are so important. So you can make changes and you can listen to the customer and kind of after you've done some work and go down, you bring it up, you get them to sign off on it. And these are all things that they're signing off on. They're signing off on the requirement stocks. You put these swim lanes and flowcharts in front of them, and you say, are we talking the same language? Are we getting your business right? And they say, yes, you're getting our business right, and they sign off on that. So that's just an introduction. I just wanted to give you an introduction before we dive into all these different data models and review what we're going to review. So just to touch on this is going to be one of our first ones. This is the coffee house data model, or Starbucks or Pete's Coffee. Very simplified view, but it's a great place to start. We'll be going to be going over the PK, or the primary keys, the FK, or the foreign keys, all the entity relationships, or the ERD, which is interrelationship diagram, which is what we're looking at. And we're going to be going over the optional relationships, or the lookups, or the master details, which are with the slash. So all these many to many and many to one, this is what we're going to be reviewing in the next 5 videos. So I hope you enjoy them. I hope this was somewhat useful for you, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks.